Hello everyone. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. This week we will cover user-driven e-government practices. So as you already know, usability is important, and by this course we will check how governments can become more user-centric. Let's start. Okay, user-driven electronic government can be defined as creating a common interface for various public stakeholders. From previous week, you already remember that e-government practices deal with many stakeholders such as government to business, government to citizen, government to government. These are some of them. And within those stakeholders, there should be provision of distinct information, and it should be solve the needs of the services, as well as it should be usable from different educational and technical backgrounds. So you should design a system which is available for everyone, regardless of the education or technical background. Therefore, designing, implementing, and maintaining e-government system which will add public value to a society is challenging because there are many different stakeholders, different educational backgrounds, different digital capabilities. So it is a concern for decision makers. Within the early e-government stages, there were diverse discussions on how this should be tackled from an e-government portal layout perspective. We already discussed about e-government portals. These are the gateways where the citizen or user can access all of the services which is provided by the government. So basically, there were two main streams were presented at that time, a provider and user perspective. I already explained it to you in the first weeks. There are demand side, which is the user, and the supply side, which is the decision makers. And for many times, what the users demand may not be satisfied with the decision makers, and it is a problem. Okay, let's move on. One of the first suggestions how to evaluate e-government portals were indirectly setting the design targets, which will enable to assess their overall compliance with laws and regulations. But you can see that this suggestion was back in time, okay? Then there was another approach was to elaborate user-centered design that were supposed to be useful to the user and allowed easy interaction. The idea was the only shift from traditional provider orientation to clear user focusing e-government development and implementation of those services, and that would lead to transformation of government. As I mentioned before, nowadays the most critical point is the usability and the personalization of the e-government practices. The services I will use will be different than services that you are using, so our portal should be personalized in a way that I get benefit or I can easily access the services I use frequently, and you can also reach the services that you can use frequently. And also don't forget we should consider the other users such as disabled persons or elderly persons. Okay, these are also important stakeholders which shouldn't be neglected by the decision makers. And today, providing services that are tailored to the user needs is the dominating e-government approach, which I already mentioned. For the provider of the e-government portals, this means that they have to consider numerous essential elements when designing, implementing, and maintaining e-government systems. And also, it affects that we have Moore's law. In every 18 years, we have better technology for cheaper prices. So the technology develops, so the e-government practices should be adapted to that as well. So everybody is now extensively using smartphones. So mobile government is another area that should be considered as well. And later on, I add some discussion questions for you. There are new concepts such as big data, artificial intelligence. These should be integrated as well within the e-government practices. So by shifting the focus from provider oriented to user oriented provision of e-government practices, now the electronic government have the potential to enhance interaction between the government and its stakeholders, because it is more likely that they will provide something which is demanded by the users. And in order to achieve this, governments need to be aware of the service and resource requirements of the users. So they should answer the question of what the users want and what do they expect from e-government practices. And if you can understand what they want, then you can tailor your services, tailor your design, tailor the processes according to users' want. And we already know in some municipalities they have also e e officials and normal elected officials, and they check whether the what the officials are doing is same with the electronic officials. So the e-government concept is really evolving and getting interesting. So there exists an extensive collection of researches within the scientific literature related to this, which provides us various related user e-governmental factors. And these factors are simple as technology readiness or digital divide to complex factors such as trust. And we know that trust is one of the main and vital points which really affect the adoption and usage of e-government practices. Later, later on, we will talk about e-voting as well in the upcoming lectures. And e-voting is also affected by trust. If the users trust the system, trust the process, they are more likely to willing to use electronic voting. And current research of mine, I found that 70% of the respondents are willing to participate on e-voting practices, but only condition is the validity and the security issues should be resolved. So it is important to understand that these factors are perceived factors, and there is not a clear, definite, objective criteria, but only the perception of the individual user who evaluates the respective issue based on personal reflection of their reality, knowledge, prior biases, and experiences. So consider that you have a user which had credit card fraud because of using internet, and if you expect from that user to pay their tax via e-government practices, that user will be really reluctant and there will be high resistance because they have a bad experience. So it also depends to the user. But if you think about the next generation who are always online and digital, for them it will be more likely to use the e-government practices. And you can think about in there the current debate related to COVID-19. In Europe, they are discussing whether to get the pathway of from the mobile operators, get the pathway of where the infected cases where they've been. So younger generations are don't mind sharing the data, but the older generations are really resistant to share their personal data. So the functional e-demand factors can be organized in three quality packages: use quality, system quality, and service quality. USS as an acronym. Use quality refers to user-related factors before, during, and after the usage of e-government system. System and service quality handle factors that are associated with overall system quality or the quality of the service provided. So if we check USS demand factor system, the figure here indicates That use quality include ease of use, usability, as I already mentioned, usefulness, the security, privacy concerns, satisfaction, the trust, expectation, and the confirmation of that expectation, whether the user is really technology literate, whether they can use technology enough, self-efficacy, and export expectancy. On the other hand, the system quality is dealing with the design and visual appeal, functionality of the interaction environment, IT system performance, IT system reliability, and IT internet readiness. And the service quality includes information or service quality, outcome quality, whether we are responsive by the website or web assistant, personal interaction, and customization. And I already mentioned the customization is really important. So to summarize, use quality factors show a user orientation, while system quality and service quality instead are the more provider orientated. So we can see that it's affected by the demand and supply still. And you have some extra reading. You know, one of the books that we are using is available on Moodle, so please read the page from 119 to 122. So e-government service preferences. An effective e-government portal interaction requires that users find their way around the e-government portal easily, so they know that what they are doing and they can get the desired services quickly. For this reason, the individual service offered group or usually organize a specific e-government service preference category, so they can select. I will show an example in upcoming slide. And by this, e-government services are provided in a thematic classification, and they have multi-level design. These subject categories should be defined in a logical structure and as mutually exclusive as possible to avoid inconsistencies in their composition. So within first level, preference categories have to give a user a clear picture of the subject, what they are doing, and therefore the e-government information and services that user will find in the category should become available. So the preference categories need to be determined from a public stakeholder perspective, clearly reflecting user needs and user demand. And in order to do that, usability tests should be organized. And the best way to do this, the decision makers can organize workshops and invite users from different backgrounds. So they can invite a retired person, they can invite youngsters, they can invite normal working citizens, they can invite disabled person, and each of them should make usability tests, and they should try the activities that they would like to get from the system, and according to that they can modify the system according to public stakeholder perspective in order to satisfy the needs and demand. If the usability tests are skipped and the designers design the system in a way that they understand, the demand side, the users might not willing to use it, and we have recent cases of it. I mean, in UK they tried to have IT system for NHS, which was really high investment and a good investment, but within the design case, the users, the patients, and the doctors didn't taken in consideration. So you know, the project was one of the biggest IT failures. Okay, we have a figure shows importance given to the services, and you can see taxes, civic immigration, the car related, transportation related services, and the arts related services are the top priority by the users. But you know, as the years change, the services can be changed as well. The priority that given to services can be changed. And also, I provide you a recent information from one of my recent researches. You know, Cyprus is divided into two, Northern Cyprus and Southern Cyprus. And in this research, I check the extent citizens desire to use e-government practices and if there is any significant differences between Northern Cyprus users and Southern Cyprus users. And when the service is used checked by the citizens, you can see that Northern Cyprus users, users in Northern Cyprus use national insurance, checking pay slips and voting information, whereas in the south, users use tax-rated services. They use e-government to pay fines and also for official document applications. With regards to the user-centered e-government, focus and the resulting importance of the user relation, and this relationship requires systematic customer care. So, apart from tailoring the e-government service offering the needs of the user, the relationship between user and e-government provider demands a professional relationship management that put user into the center of attention. As I already mentioned, users should be in center. And recent research indicated that decision makers consider society's reaction when they are giving decision related to e-government. So this also supports what the literature is saying. So not just for the e-government websites, but also for e-commerce, you should design your website according to the user, not according to the decision makers or the owners' desire. And guys, I have some discussion questions for you. Think about them and we will discuss about them within the online chat session that we will organize. So first question is, can recent technologies help to improve user centricity? Please think about it. You can check Heatmap. It is the application which shows which parts of the site that users are going or clicking. And think about the artificial intelligence. To what extent it can be used to increase user centricity. Okay, think about these and we can discuss. So if any of you had a club card before for a specific groceries or for a specific brand, the logic of it is they use your data and they offer you services related to your usage or your purchasing habits, okay? And it is the same logic for e-government related user relationship management. Within that, it includes the information and communication technology-based planning, organizing, screening, and controlling of user relationships with the aim to make as such effective services. So user-driven relationship management become important topic in the last decade, especially its relevance for systematically fostering user loyalty seen as a vital factor for improving organizational success. And the connection of relationship management and user loyalty is supported by Kotler. He's a marketing guru, and he stated that the task of creating strong customer loyalty is called relationship marketing, and it enables successful contribution to public value if you do it by means of e-government practices. User relationship management contains three essential target dimensions. And first one is sustainable user loyalty. Then we have usage frequency and length of stay. Sustainable user loyalty forms the core target dimension as it is always need to be considered when taking user relationship actions. The second dimension is the usage frequency of an e-government offer within a certain period of time. So the more often a user uses a particular service, the higher usage frequency. These target dimension can be divided into an absolute and a relative perspective. The absolute perspective is determined by the number of page impressions per user. On the other hand, the relative perspective takes this number and builds up a ratio by relating the absolute perspective to the overall user page impressions in a similar service offerings. Therefore, showing the ratio between the portal visits of a one provider and other providers with a similar savings offering. So in a way, compares the page impressions between different sites by having a ratio. And the last dimension, length of stay, covers all actions carried out by the provider to maximize it. And the aim is to maximize the length of stay per e-government portal visit. The intention is that incrementing the length of a user stay on the e-government service portal will lead to increase in service usage. In e-commerce, the technical term for the potential that a user stays on a website is called stickiness. I have some doubts about this, but I added on discussion points so we can discuss it on that. Because if you are dealing with e-government, you don't need that much stickiness. What you have to focus on whether the user can complete the task that they intend to do digitally as efficient as possible, and they don't need to spend that much time according to my personal view. Okay. Thus, a sticky website increases the likelihood that users will stay longer and will use more services on this website than others that are not less sticky. This is of particular importance to reduce the rush at expensive physical counters by shifting transaction from the personal offline to automated online environment. Three target dimensions, however, are neither substitutes for each other nor competing elements. Therefore, user loyalty actions may aim at individual target dimensions or at any combination of them. Many user relationship management initiatives, for instance, pursue all three of them. You can see a figure in the next slide which summarizes the three target dimensions of user loyalty. So to summarize, sustainable user loyalty aims to have lasting users. Usage frequency and length of stays are the concepts. Usage frequency includes whether the user is spending a period of time. We have absolute perspective, is the number of page impressions, and we have relative perspective. It is the number of user page impressions in relation to the overall user page impression in a similar service offerings. And we have length of stay, so maximizing the length of stay per e-government portal visit, and stickiness, technical term for increasing the length of stay for website visits.